Despite what you may see on social media, when we consider the current US economic landscape from a broad perspective, the situation actually appears relatively positive. And here are some of the reasons why. According to Pew data, more young adults are employed full time today than at any time since 1993. Jobless claims have been under 4% for over 25 months, which is a record. Consumer spending is up, GDP growth is strong. There likely won't be a recession as was feared. And although inflation remains persistent, it has receded from peak levels observed around a year to a year and a half ago. Furthermore, the International Monetary Fund projects a cautiously optimistic outlook for the US economy. Now, yes, consumers still feel some pain as prices have not receded to their spring of 2021 levels, which is why I don't think there will be an interest rate reduction by the Federal Reserve, at least not until later this year. The inflation statistics are largely why only 28% of people report feeling good about the economy currently. Now, the issue here is what is being reported by these people is not reflected in reality for Americans, though. The bottom line is Americans may say they are concerned or angry about the economy, but really when you expect the economy to be terrible, you save. You put away the money for a supposed upcoming recession. The reality is consumer spending is up $150 billion from 2021, and this is because, according to the Center for American Progress, wages are outpacing inflation by 3%. Adjusted for inflation, nearly 60% of U.S. workers are earning more money than they did last year. In fact, real average wage growth for a typical worker has seen the second fastest recovery during this recession recovery of all 5 recession recoveries since 1980. There is every reason to believe and be optimistic that the future of the U.S. economy is bright. However, the narrative shifts significantly when examining scenarios beyond U.S. borders. European economies, specifically larger economies in Germany and the United Kingdom, are experiencing significant recessionary pressures. The German economy entered a recession in the first quarter of this FY, marking its first recession in the 3 years since the pandemic. This was due to a combination of factors: a decline in domestic consumption amidst inflation rates exceeding 7%, and the European Central Bank's interest rate hikes aimed at combating those high inflation rates, which has significantly hampered economic activity. In the United Kingdom, the inflation rate is above 8%, which is the highest among G7 nations. They are grappling with soaring food costs, and there's an expectation that interest rates will be raised further and could go higher than 5.5% by the end of this year. Now, this scenario has led to increased borrowing costs and has impacted mortgage rates and affected households and businesses. However, despite these challenges, the UK economy has so far avoided a true recession, which provides the government there some leeway for economic adjustments and possibly the ability to recover more quickly. Looking at the global economic concerns, though, China's situation is remarkably noteworthy. Despite its substantial influence as a primary foreign direct investor and a major lender, as well as a key trading partner to both developing nations and developed nations alike, China is confronting substantial economic challenges. Key areas of concern regarding China involves their COVID-19 impact. Unlike Western countries, Chinese people received less financial support during the pandemic, so the anticipated surge of spending following China's reopening did not occur, and this lack of a stimulus spending spree, so to speak, has been a significant drag on the economy in China. The real estate is slowed down. With about 70% of household wealth in China tied up in real estate, the sector's downturn is significantly impacting the broader economy. This slowdown is part of a larger structural issue, as the property market in China has been a critical growth driver, but is now experiencing reduced demand and falling prices. This has led to higher household debt because they can't rely on their investments. There has been an unprecedented expansion in credit, especially when it comes to real estate and local government spending, which has now reached a peak in China. This expansion has resulted in high levels of debt, not only individually, but also within governments, especially in the property sector, which is undergoing, as I said, a severe correction. There is decreased consumer confidence in spending within China, and the crisis in confidence among consumers and private businesses is exacerbated by the government's regulatory crackdown on various industries, as well as heightened tensions with Western countries that tended to be their biggest investors. There's also demographic challenges, which I've talked about many times. The issue of stagnant wages because worker pools are shrinking is causing problems from China as they're trying to make the transition from an economy based on their previous high-speed growth, which was driven by debt-fueled investment, to a more stable and reliant model based on consumer spending, and it is very difficult for them to do that. There is a softening demand for Chinese exports due to global economic uncertainties out of Europe, rising labor and logistics costs, as well as concerns regarding China's crackdown on private sector firms and industries, leading to long-term damage to private sector confidence and foreign investment. The cherry on the top of all of this, which is not really a good cherry, is the souring global sentiment due to Chinese human rights policies and belligerence to its neighbors. Now, the problem is, along with all of this, there is a perceived delay in the Chinese government's response to all of these challenges. This comes because when you have a singular entity at the top making all the decisions for the economy, it is inherently inefficient and myopic. Now, when you couple this with international regulatory tensions and the tariff issues we've had between China and the US, it's really fostered a major climate of uncertainty. Now, while there have been policy measures introduced by the Chinese, the response is viewed as incremental or insufficiently cohesive, or as a measure to react and not get ahead of anything. So all of this continues to point to what I have said for the last 2 years on TikTok and YouTube. The US economy is a juggernaut that is based on its global military capability, dollar dominance, resource access, US worker reliability and productivity, and an open investment system. Many of these things China and Russia and other economies just don't have. Therefore, going forward, the US and those that hitch their wagon to the US will likely recover and be all right. Those that strive to counter US dominance, and I'm looking at China and Russia here, will find the path forward quite painful.